husband is gone to Singapore and has requested me to speak to you this evening. He purposely does not inform you in advance that he will not be here. I think it's a very good reason to teach you to listen to Dhamma. Dhamma is Dhamma, whether it be Chief Reverend Dhamma or, you see, coming from a younger monk or from a lay person. Dhamma is Dhamma. So, I would like to ask you, from what you have heard, from what you have read, from what you have discussed, is there something that you would like to raise for this evening's talk or discussion? Is there any one of you who would like to raise anything? Yes. Okay, right. Thank you. Good. Yes, a request is made as to the significance of Vesak. Of course, those of you who have been here again and again, and you probably must have heard and read already about Vesak. But there are many people, even though they visit the temples, even though they can be organizers and management committees too, sometimes do not know really the significance of Vesak. There are various aspects to it. The significance of Vesak, of course, lies with the Buddha. But the word Vesak is an Anglicized, or it actually originates from the Sanskrit word Vaishaka. Vaishaka is the name of a month in a lunar calendar, in Indian lunar calendar. It usually corresponds to the month of May, but there are certain years it can be towards the later part of April or sometimes in June also. This is one such year. That is why some other countries celebrate Vesak in the month of June, first week of June, because this year according to the lunar calendar, there are double third month. Is that right? That is high. According to the lunar calendar, they speak of the 15th day of the 4th month. And so, 4th month this year falls in June. However, it's something which it's very difficult for the purpose of fixing official to have it a public holiday. In Malaysia, we are very fortunate that we have a public holiday. Vesak has been many years already. So, for that purpose, I have to fix very much earlier. And not only that, the agreement or the resolution made at the World Fellowship of Buddhists, they have decided to celebrate Vesak in the month of May, the full moon day of the month of May. And that is why Malaysia follows this. over Singapore, some temple in May, some temple in June. But does not matter really. As long as you know that it is the month, the word Vesak is derived from the Sanskrit word Vaishaka. The Pali term is Visakha, and the Sinhalese version is Vesak Poya. And that is why, because the celebration of Vesak and the promotion of the celebration of Vesak was originally and very much promoted by the Buddhist community in Sri Lanka. And so we have this anglicized Vesak, sometimes spelled as V-E-S-A-K, sometimes as W, because in the Indian language the V is pronounced as W. You know, when you ask the Indians to speak of vase, can you say vase? They will say vase. Oh, you see? So V and W. That is why we can either pronounce Vesak or Vesak. So that is what Vesak is about. It's the name of a month. And on the full moon day of that month, the Buddha gained his enlightenment. Not only his enlightenment, according to Buddhist tradition, Buddha was born on the full moon day of the month of Vesak. He attained his enlightenment 35 years after that. Also on the full moon day of the month of Vesak. And he passed away, or he attained Mahaparinibbana also on the full moon day of the month of Vesak. You have any doubts in your mind? Well, this is what the tradition, according to tradition. Anyway, I know one man, I know one person who is very religious. He is born and he died on the same day of his, because he lived for how many years? Nearly 60 over years, 70 over years. But the day he passed away was also his birthday. Well, it is not impossible. Whatever it is, the significance is a very great one. We say, Sukho Buddhanam Upado. Sukho Buddhanam Upado. Happy is the birth of the Buddhas. Happy is the birth of all Buddhas. Why? Daily, every moment now, there are many babies born in this world. I do not know, I don't have the statistics, but while we are talking now, there are mothers delivering child, right? Some of them will become good citizens. Some will become very intelligent professors, professionals. Some very average person. Some a little bit below average. Some handicapped. Some very cunning. Some become robbers, and so on. If you happen to get a child born destined to become, what kind of child do you really want? If you had the opportunity to have another one, what is your dream child? Of course, for many today, what do you dream of? What do you want your child to become? Doctor, lawyer, engineer, or whatever profession that can make a fuss, money, a lot of money, so that you can have big car and big house. This is what people wanted. You see. Do you ever think of getting a son or a daughter to become a monk or a nun? Do you ever think about it? Huh? No. But there are already a few young couples have openly expressed their hopes that if they ever get a child, they wish they can get a child who will be a very great monk, or, like that, for the sasana. And I know of at least one couple who have fulfilled, that wish has been fulfilled. One. And of course we do not know as yet how great this monk is going to be. He's still very young, or a little bit taller than that maybe. He's maybe now in his late teens. He's a monk now. And quite some years ago, this child came, and he was only a few years old, 5 years old or so. And I remember I was standing outside the door, and this child came round, running, and got hold of me and clung onto me. And I looked at him, and very loving son, very loving child. And after that, he went round the temple. Parents, after a little while, wanted to take him home. He cried. He did not want to go home. So they put him in the car, took one round, he cried in the car, had to bring him back again. Anyway, later the parents told me, the mother told me what happened. The mother said that she had gone to listen to some Dhamma talk given by certain monks. And she had been listening to this. She had been frequenting Dhamma talks. After listening to the Dhamma, she realized the importance of Dhamma, the importance of getting people who are able to speak, who are able to propagate and reach out the real message of the Buddha, which can save, which can help humanity. So, of course, she attempts those stuff with the husband. It is again something not so common. It is rare to find both husband and wife. Of course, I can see here, there are quite a number of husband and wives who are here. But in many cases, when the wife comes, husband will drop the car and sometimes wait outside. Any of your husband outside? Sometimes husband comes, the wife will stay back. Don't want to come. I see. Seldom do you get with husband and wife. In this case, husband and wife attends to the Dhamma and had joy listening to Dhamma. Then, after some time, both of them had that wish, and they agreed. How nice if we get a son and can become a great preacher one day. And true enough, the mother said that from the time of conception, her life sort of changed. Firstly, the food that she consumed, she could not eat any meat or fish or anything. You see, she just vomited out. And after that came this child, her son. And at that young age, there was many years back, when he goes around, he plays the motor car, he rides a small bike, and it runs over some ants in the house. And he will stop and look and see the dead ants, and then tell the mother, "Oh, I am sorry." Yes. Nobody taught him. He says, "I am very sorry," you know. Then he would sit in full lotus, and occasionally he tells the mother and father, "Please sit down before him." And all this on his own. He just had that love for Dhamma, for that. And so this is an example. I'm just telling you as an example of how. Because we also need to have campaigns for more Buddhist monks and nuns. You see? Because in certain Buddhist countries, it's very important that they cherish to get sons or to become monks, you see. But we are living in a very materialistic society. So people count in terms of dollars and cents, right? But to those who understand and understanding Buddhists, if they can have that higher wish. In the case of the Buddha has practiced this being. Had been practicing for many, many, many lifetimes. From the time, one occasion, you can see many pictures about a life story of the Buddha, but maybe you have not heard this one. The first occasion when this person had conceived the thought of becoming a Buddha. Do you know? Anybody know? On what occasion? This was when a certain merchant had gone sailing to bring the goods to another place. And along with it, he had taken along his mother. Then what happened? On the way, in the high seas, storm broke up and the boat capsized, overturned. Then this man, this merchant, this young merchant, first thing that he thought of was what? What would you think firstly? You have a lot of merchandise, valuable ones. You also have your mother there. What would you think first? Merchandise, isn't it? This man, he thought of his mother first. Don't worry about all other things. Grabbed hold of the mother, put the mother on the back, and he swam. Because of this strong thought of wanting to save the mother's life, he had that strong energy, swam and swam and swam, but could not see the shore. No sign of the shore. Then, what happened? What happened, do you think? Yes, a deva. A deva or a deity, actually a former relative, his former relative, had seen this sight and guided, while he was swimming, he was guided in a certain direction and soon landed on the shore. Soon as he landed on the shore, the mother, after revitalizing her soul, uttered this and said, "Son, you have saved my life. I wish you will be able to save the lives of all beings also, many beings. I wish you would become a Buddha, that you can save the life of other beings." Then, he heard this from the mother, and this thought came to his mind. Yes, I wish to become a Buddha. From that time onwards, he had this thought in him. Just like some children, when they heard from their parents, parents tell them of various professions, the advantages of certain professions, then instill the minds of the child. They want to become this. So also, this merchant had this thought of wanting to become a Buddha. Now it went on, life after life, which is said, according to tradition, for 7 asankhya kalpa. That means that one kalpa is the time, the duration where the world system integrates or formed, and the time when it disintegrates. Integration and disintegration of the world system is one kalpa. So, asankhya is 100,000 of this kalpa. For 7 asankhya's, this being had been cherishing in the mind of wanting to become a Buddha. He does not know who, what it is, but just the thought there. Just the thought in the mind of wanting to be this kind of person. Have not much other ideas. And not only that, does not speak out of, he doesn't speak of his thoughts. Like some of you have in your mind that you want to become this, you want to become that, but you dare not talk to others. You still keep within you, right? Until the right time you feel that you are ready, and then you start talking about what you want to become. You see? So, this happened to this person. So from life to life, he went on. And after that 7 asankhya, he started to speak. He started to utter and wish that he will become a Buddha. And that he continued for another 9 asankhya's. Yes. See? Long time. Wait. Then, after that long period of time, all throughout the time he only talked only with his, that he wants to be this, he wants to be that. But no action. Then the action followed. And he began to put into practice what he spoke. Four asankhya's. This is the story behind the Bodhisattva. How finally, in his last life, he was born as Siddhartha Gautama. Just before that, he was a being as named as Setaketu in Tusita heaven. Just as now, according to Buddhist tradition, we believe that the future Buddha is also in Tusita heaven. You know the name of the future Buddha? What is his name? Maitreya. Metya or Maitreya. According to the tradition, it is said that this kalpa, this world system we are living in, will have how many Buddhas? How many Buddhas? 4 or 5? 5. 4 have come. 1 more to come. That's according to 1 more to come. Maitreya. Maitreya will be the last in this kalpa, in this world cycle. So, the birth of the Buddha is a very significant one. Why? Because it is not the birth of an ordinary being. Yet, he was, you can say, an ordinary human being, but a very much developed one. One who has developed virtues, perfections to a very great degree. Up to its perfection, who has perfected virtues, certain virtues up to the highest. We speak of, in the Pali tradition, we speak of 10 perfections. Dasa Paramita of Polomi. Dasa Paramita, all the perfections of certain virtues with regards to dana, generosity, sila, morality, nekkamma, renunciation, giving up, panya, wisdom, virya, effort, energy, khanti, patience, tolerance, endurance, satya, truthfulness, aditthana, resolution, determination, metta, loving kindness, upekha, equanimity. These are the 10 perfections or 10 virtues, 10 qualities which the Bodhisattva, before he became a Buddha, aspiring to become an all-enlightened being, he had to perfect and he perfected these virtues. I'll give you an example, an idea of how perfection of these virtues is carried out. Take the first virtue of dana, generosity, giving. A bodhisattva, before he becomes the Buddha, practices in this manner. First, he gives up. He learns how to give and share material things, whatever material things that he possesses. Are you able to share some material things that you have? Food, clothing, shelter, and medicine, and various other material needs. What have you given today? Material things, what have you given? Otherwise we would tell you the story of how with Santaras, one of his last lines, how his perfection of dana, small, as soon as he was conceived in the child, the mother, this child, there are many stories like this. Soon as this child was conceived in the mother's womb, the mother had the thought. Formerly, mother did not have the thought of doing charity so much. But soon after the child was conceived, the mother had this thought of giving, to go to the poorer places in the villages, to build big tents and halls, and bring all the material things, requirements for the poor, for the needy. And that was how he practiced. From life to life, from life to life he practiced. It's a very touching story. As a young prince, when he was practicing this virtue, he had all the gold necklace and bangles and other things. The maids who were looking after him, he would take out this and give it to them. And then the mother says, "Where is it?" And they realized that he had given to them. So the mother bought some more. Parents bought some more for him. Again, he gave to others like that. Oh, you see, maybe you may have some children like that too. But when they do like that, what do? You beat them up. Isn't it? And says, "Don't you ever do that again," isn't it? That is the concept of generosity. You see. Now, I know there are some children who just have that tendency of just giving up. You see. It is from the past. It is from the past. You see. You should learn to rejoice with them, because, those who have this tendency, they will never die of hunger. If they learn to give food, give other things to others, they never be wanting. It is because of what they have taken from the past. This is the law of karma, law of cause and effect. So this is what he had done as a bodhisattva in many of his past life. He has given. Not only had he practiced this giving of material things, at a second degree, the second degree of perfection involves the giving of certain bodily possession. In other words, what can you give? You can give blood, you can give organs also, eye and kidney and other organs, tissues. The Buddha has practiced this in many of his past lives when he was perfecting the dana paramita. That is why when I attended a symposium in Singapore about kidney donation of tissues, organs. I informed them of the Buddhist attitude towards tissue donation. And I said that it is recorded in our literature, in Buddhist literature, of the Buddha. At one time he was born and he became a king. His name was Sivi, King Sivi. And he had a servant who became blind. And what happened was, he called his surgeon and asked the surgeon to remove his eyes and give his eyes to the servant. And the book says that after that, you see, servants could see. Now, the doctors and surgeons who was attending the symposium, they were surprised. Because I tell them, this is a story which the Buddha had said. Buddha lived 2,500 years ago, but he was recollecting his previous lives, long time ago, when he was born as King Sivi, and he became King Sivi. At that time, they were already able to transplant eye. Not only that, there are many other occasions where the Buddha had given his limbs also to others. That is how he practiced giving, generosity. To the highest degree, he practiced giving up of his life for the sake, for the welfare, for the happiness of others. He was prepared to die. At the risk of his own life, he is prepared to give his life for others' happiness. And there's also a story with that, how he recollected. And this place is there, some distance away from Kathmandu in Nepal. Formerly, Nepal was part of India, you see. And you find in India, in those areas where people are still, up to today, they can locate Buddha's past life, where Buddha was in some of his past lives, and where especially he practiced those virtue giving. That is why this story is still known today. How when he was born in a princely, as a prince, and then he had gone together with his other brothers to the forest, and then he saw lying on the ground a tigress, a female tiger, and very thin, very weak, just skin and bones, and had a number of young ones, litter cubs, baby tigers. And he felt, when he saw that, he felt pity for this poor, hungry mother tigress. And he thought, if this tigress were to die, if there is no food, this tigress were to die, all these young ones will also die. So, what did he do? He waited until all his brothers left the forest, and then what would you do? You run. And sometimes some people come and tell the, warden to come and catch, or some people shoot. No. This Bodhisattva, what he did was, he went to that place near to the female tiger, jumped down and offered. He fell, and that is how he offered this body to be food for the tigers. This story may seem a little bit, well, you may think, according to your judgment, that it is something that one should not do. It's not so, it's a little bit stupid to do that, isn't it? But this is how. You see, virtuous people and wise people look very stupid in the eyes of the worldly ones. In the eyes of worldly people, they say, why these people become monks and nuns? They can enjoy their life. Why they stay in temple only? You see. So, this is how we view things. And that is how the Bodhisattva practiced life after life, life after life. And you can see how many life, how many perfections, how many virtues he has perfected in this way. I'm just giving you one example only. There's no time to tell you all. But after he practiced, for each virtue, he practiced this perfection, these three levels. First level of material things, giving up material things. Second level, bodily possession. Third level, his whole life. You see, that is how you practice these perfections. The same way, when you practice morality of keeping the precepts like non-lying, non-killing, avoiding killing and lying, sexual misconduct, stealing. If you can practice this precept, but if somebody comes and with a knife and says, take that thing from me. If you don't take, you see the knife here. What do? You say, okay, I'll take for you. Which one do you value more? Your life or the action, the moral action? Which one? Your life, is it? Well, it depends what level of development. There are some of you here who are beginning or who have begun to live to certain principles, certain moral principles. You uphold this principle even at the expense of losing material things, even at the expense of losing part of your body, or even at the expense of your own life. You will not give up the practice of morality. Like this is how we perfect the practice perfection. So it takes a very long time if you want to become a Buddha. But Buddha speaks of three kinds of Buddhas. You know the three kinds of Buddhas? Buddhahood can be attained in three ways. One is what you call Samma Sambuddha. Samma Sambuddha is a fully enlightened one, fully enlightened being, of which the last one was the historical Gautama, the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama. Another kind of Buddha is called a Pracheka Buddha. Pracheka Buddha also, he becomes a Buddha through his own efforts, like a Samma Sambuddha. A Samma Sambuddha is one who practices, perfects himself
attained to his enlightenment through his own efforts, without any external help, aids. That is why, and he's completely, fully enlightened. That is why called Samma. Samma means fully, completely. Sam Buddha, Sam, the word Sam refers to by oneself. He became enlightened through his own efforts. In the case of Pacceka Buddha, this Pacceka Buddha also attained his enlightenment through his own efforts. But he is not Samma Sambuddha because he is not that fully enlightened in the sense that he is not able to enlighten others, or he is not interested to enlighten others. That's why the English rendering is a private or a silent Buddha, Pacceka Buddha. You see, he's enlightened, but he's quietly on his own. Then the third kind is a Shravaka Buddha. Shravaka Buddhas are those who follow the teachings of the Buddha and perfect themselves, perfect their minds. The Arahats. Happiness, Sukho Buddhanang Upado. Happiness is the birth of all Buddhas. Because the birth of Prince Siddhartha Gautama, it's actually a culmination of so many lives and so many perfection. And 5 things he considers before taking birth. This being, Seta Ketu, I told you, in the Tusita heaven, he considered 5 things before he took birth in India. Firstly, the time, the place, the country, the clan, and mother. Mother is an important factor too. These 5 conditions. With these 5 conditions, Setaketu decided and he took birth. Now, not all beings are able to be born in this manner. You cannot just say, I want to be born in such a place, in the womb of so-and-so. It cannot happen in that way. But in the case of this being who had developed his mind to that great extent, he had that ability. And we are told how soon after he was born, he uttered these words. He says, "Chief am I in this world, supreme am I. This is my last word." Do you believe? A few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I had an exhibition in Australia, and I put there the life of the Buddha, birth, enlightenment, and passing away, and I put those words, what he uttered when he was born, and then when he gained enlightenment, what he uttered, and when he passed away, attained Mahaparinibbana, the last words he uttered. You see, they are recorded in the text. Then the people came and says, "What?" He says, "This child can say all these things soon as he was born?" And we had children also, conducted tour and to explain to them. But luckily, a couple of months before that, I had a copy of The Voice of Buddhism. This was, I think, it was just 2 years back. Yes. And in it, there was an article on how 2-month-old girl spoke 8 different languages. Do you believe? What happened was this. You read that article. If you don't believe that the Buddha could speak these few words. This girl from Bulgaria. You know where Bulgaria is? Eastern Europe. I also do not know exactly where. It's somewhere there. When this girl was born, the parents had said that this girl intently was looking at the parents. As soon as the parents stopped, this girl was looking very intently, very attentive. And when she was 1 week, she started to speak very clear words, sentences. When she was 1 month old, she started to converse. When she was 2 months old, she was able to converse in 8 different languages. But is this a miracle? No. Actually, it has baffled all those psychologists and scientists in that part of the world. This case was brought to a society called the Reincarnation Society in Moscow. And the researchers there, they say, this is a case. This is a case where this child has lived and had all the abilities. She was able to tap her past consciousness. You see? That was one. So, if you have any doubts about this, think about this. I'll have another story for you. Because last year, I saw on Chief Reverend's table one newspaper. And this newspaper of a child in America, the boy who was born. Maybe some of you have read it. The nurse had said, soon as he come out to this world, he uttered these words. You know what he uttered? Oh no, not again. Oh no, not again. And then silent. And the mother said, when this child was brought to her hand, she looked at the child, this baby boy, and he would look a little bit terrified, like, coming back again in this world. Yes. I'm sure he had been born in the past, and and he thought, enough. But unfortunately, you see, still have to come back. You see. So, this is what. So to be able to speak those few words, nothing. Of course, the tradition also says that he took certain steps forward. And you see, I cannot give you examples of anyone who have taken any steps forward like that. Anyway, this is what the tradition says. So really, the birth of Prince Siddhartha, the Buddha, was not an ordinary event. Not an ordinary event. Because this was the child who had all the perfections. He had perfected those perfections and destined to become a great teacher, a great master, whose teaching would be able to last for 5,000 years. Here we're just a little bit more than 2,500 years. So even now, Buddhists throughout the world think of the great being. Why? Because if we still practice the teachings which he taught 2,500 years and more ago, if we truly practice his teachings, we can see the way out. He can help us to overcome conflicts, overcome suffering, overcome all the worries that you have, anxieties, fears. Truly. Do you believe? This is what enlightenment meant. Why did Prince Siddhartha, after his birth, then what happened was, I won't tell you the story in full, but enough to lead you on to understand that this was a child. Soon after his birth, he had a naming ceremony, and the wise people, astrologers, were called to give him a name. And they gave him the name Siddhartha, wish fulfilled. Of 108 Brahmins, sages invited, 8 of them took part in the naming ceremony. And then all of them except one put 2 fingers up and said, this child will become either a king of kings, a universal monarch, king of kings, or he will become a supreme enlightened teacher, Buddha. One, and the youngest, it happened to be the youngest of those astrologers and sage, just put up 1 finger and said, he will become the Buddha. How do they know? How do they know? By looking at the physical features of the body. Because your body is what you have inherited from the past. It is all your karmic, what you have done in the past. So many lives before. Even now, what you are doing now, your karma, your actions, your thought, your speech and your body action, they are constantly conditioning and molding your body. Do you realize that? When you listen to Dhamma, intelligently, with full of faith, you find your eyes opening brighter, your ears sharp, concentration. And when you hear with joy, with happiness, you smile. You relax your muscles here. You do it again and again every day. You will get a very charming and smiling, cheerful face and a very calm and serene face. What do you say? But every time you get angry, you pull your face, make look like a monster, right? And you don't like some food, you make your face look very long, pull your muscles like that. You don't, maybe you are not aware of it. But when you do that again and again, it becomes a habit, your muscles get stretched. Yes, this is how, you see. This is how the features. And there is a study in Chinese, what you call, they call it physiognomy, where you study the features of your facial, yes. And just by looking at you, they know the kind of life that you have gone through and that you may be going through, the kind of sicknesses, illnesses that you have, right? In your childhood, 1 to 14, your ear, 1 ear, If you have small ear, that means in your young days, there's some illness, something that has, resulted in that. And then your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, these are points. And it's just that in the course of my travels, in the course of my meeting people and wanting to help people when they are sick, I come across such people, you see. And various people with various skills. And sometimes I just like to sit and learn from them a little bit here and there, you see. So, because these are all very clear indications. There are studies, very clear indications of your lines on your hands, you see. They are all indications of your karma. But does not mean to say that you cannot totally change them. You can change them up to a certain extent, right? If you don't like your nose, you go for cosmetic surgery, it just comes out a little bit. But karma is such, when you grow old, all the other parts goes in, this part comes out, because, you see. So you have to go again for another cosmetic surgery, you see. So think twice if you want to go for cosmetic surgeries like that, you see. The best thing that you can ensure yourself, if you want to have good, beautiful looking, charming, radiant, practice metta, loving kindness. Get rid of your jealousy, envy, anger, you see. And you become a more cheerful, more happy person like this. You see. During the time of the Buddha, some women dressed very beautifully, full of what you call colored saris and hairdos. Ananda told the Buddha and says, there are some beautiful women coming. And the Buddha looked and said, Ananda, where? There. You mean there? Because what happened was, when Ananda told the Buddha, Ananda saw those women were smiling and giggling and that, you see. So obviously they were looking quite pretty. At least their face, you see. But what happened was, the next moment when the Buddha looked at them, because they had teased one another and they got angry. And they were looking like, monsters, female monsters, very angry. And now looking at each other, feeling like scratching one another with their... So Buddha says, where's the beauty? Just the colors of your clothes, the fashion, your hairdo, they don't make you really pretty. The real charm is the inner charm that you have. With simplicity, with virtues, you will be the princess and prince charming. So, karma is that. So this is how the Buddha, the astrologers were able to see. And that one young astrologer was able to see. Do you know what is that feature in the body? The Buddha is said from the Pali scripture is said to have 32 perfect features. 32 perfect features. And one of these features, which the Buddha had, no others have. And this one astrologer of this sage, he was able to see very clearly. That is why he says only one. He pointed only one. What was that feature? Do you know? No, this image of the Buddha doesn't have that. But if you go the other one, the other in the main shrine hall, that image has got it. What is that? That is called the Unaloma. Unaloma. a hair that grows in between the eyebrow, the third eye. A hair that grows from there. One hair. And it is like a spring. If you take it out and let go, it will coil. And you go back and see whether you... It depends where it coils. It depends how it coils. If it coils in the... no, I'm not too sure. There's clockwise and anti-clockwise. I must see which clockwise or anti-clockwise. If it coils in one direction, that he will become King of Kings, universal monarch. If it coils the other direction, then he becomes a supreme religious teacher. In this case, that one astrologer, sage, he was able to see it so clearly, and he knows which direction it went. So he says, just this one, he will be there. You see? And true enough, this child, he was given this name Siddhartha. It means wish fulfilled. And he lived. He was very contemplative, married, had a child. But just before he had a child, he married at 16 years old. Because the father saw him very contemplative, took the advice from the ministers and says, the only thing is to make him happy, let him get married young, and and then he'll be tied down for at least, 20 years, and he'll become a king, like that. So he got married 16. At 29, still did not have a child yet, he started. He had everything what the material world could offer him. Now, of course, one should not think of a prince like a king of today, but because in India there are many kingdoms, small kingdoms. But even then, he was born in this ruling class that he had everything what the material things the people had at that time, with what material things can offer him. He had them, but he was not happy. Then when he went out of the palace, and when he saw 4 sights, can you remember the 4 sights? The sight of an old man, the sight of a sick man, the sight of a dead person, and the sight of a holy man. The first 3 sights representing old age, sickness, death. When he saw this, he started to contemplate. Of course, he led a very sheltered life, he had not seen it. So his charioteer, his friend, Chandra, told him, explained to him the meaning of old age. He says, one day you will grow old if you live long enough. You won't be able to walk straight like that, you walk like that, with your back almost parallel to the ground. You laugh, you won't believe this thing, but I have seen people walking that way. You see? But you're a little bit more fortunate, maybe. Yes. I've seen some people walking just that way, with their back almost parallel to the ground. You see? And sickness, all kinds of sicknesses. And this man was suffering from, his skin peeled off. You see? Then the Buddha taught, or Prince Siddhartha taught, he was given this, that you too can get sick, your wife, your father. And he started to think and contemplate. I will grow old. My father will grow old. My wife and all my relatives grow old like this, become like that. And my become sick like that and will one day die, and people will cry and carry and cry like that? Oh, he thought, after thinking in this manner, he thought, is there a way out? Is there a way how I can help my father, my wife, and all my kinsmen and all others? How to overcome these miseries of old age, sickness and death? The thought arose in his mind, this thought, to find out that knowledge. And that's the truth that we talk about. The truth or the knowledge with regards to the cessation of, to put an end once and for all to old age, sickness and death. Do you want to know this truth? You want to know the way how you can overcome old age? Don't have to grow old. Don't have to become sick. Don't have to die. You like? No, this is not joking aside. This is true. This is what the Buddha stood for. This is what the enlightenment of the Buddha is. And this is why we have all the reason to rejoice, to be happy, to rejoice and do merits and make the determination to seek refuge in the Buddha and determine to follow this path, the teachings which will little by little, gradually pave the way for you to overcome old age, sickness and death. This is what the Buddha, with this thought in mind, he says, enough, I will go back. With that contemplation, with that thought of trying to find out the truth, the way, how to overcome old age, sickness and death, as he was on his way back to the palace, he saw another sight. He saw the sight of a holy man, very calm and serene. Then he thought, this may be the way. The fourth sight shows him that this could be the path. And upon reaching the palace, he was given the news that a son is born to him. That's why he uttered the words, Raho Jato, Raho Jato. He says, Raho Jato means a fetter, a binding, a bondage is come to me. You see, that is why the son came to be named Rahula. He was a fetter, because just at this time when he wanted to get out, fetter is born. You see. Anyway, he was determined. He went in to have a look, both the wife, the child, sleeping. And he had this determination. Siddhartha Gautama did not leave home because of a quarrel, because of a misunderstanding, no. He had, out of greatest compassion, to find a way out so that that wife will not grow old, will not become sick, will not die. That prompted him, he left that great renunciation of the greatest renunciation this world had seen. Given up a kingdom, a beautiful loving wife and a son. Then he struggled for 6 years. It took to the extremes. And then he realized, on the night of the full moon day of the month of Vesak, when he was 35 years old, what happened to him? This is something important for you to know. 3 important knowledge, insight arose in him. As he was deep in meditation, his mind became clear and peaceful. Then he could see his past life, his previous life. One, when He saw who the father, the mother, the brother, the sister, where he was born, and all that. Then he saw 2, 3, 4, 5, and multiples of them, until thousands of his past, previous lives he was able to recall and be able to see it in very clear terms. Like watching television, like that. Very quickly you can see how many lives pass, like that. You see. Now, nearly for 4 hours he saw those things. You see. So you can see a lot for 4 hours. But the mind faster than the television screen. Then, after that, he turned his mind to see the life of others. And he had a vision, and he saw how beings die and are reborn in other realms of existence, in various realms of existence. He was able to see how this being, they live in such a way, that was their karma. When they die, this is where he is born. This is what happened to this person. This man had such a great craving for the woman, was born here. This woman had so much craving for the house, was born somewhere in the house. You see? So, able to see in very clear terms. That is knowledge with regards to the law of karma. Rose. How beings die and are reborn. Then, the next watch of the night, the final watch of the night, he contemplated, looking at his own past lives and the lives of other beings, he saw one thing: they are not satisfactory, suffering. As long as one is born in this world, one grows old, becomes sick and die, fight and quarrel with one another, fighting for promotion and not getting it, disappointed, having to go and study in tutorial classes, send children for tutorials, come back, then when they grow up, they go away. Come back and see you once a year maybe. What? And wait for you for the time to grow old, become sick, and then wait for the time to pass off. You see? Sometime expectedly, sometime unexpectedly. You see? This is life. This is what life is about. Buddha saw it clearly. Then the Buddha contemplated the last watch of the night, important, the third knowledge. Because remember, he left the kingdom to find the truth as to how to overcome old age, sickness and death. In other words, how to overcome suffering. The last watch of the night he contemplated and saw how suffering arose and how suffering ceases. This knowledge is embodied in the law of dependent origination or paticca samuppada, which I have explained to some of you in the past. The law of dependent origination explains very clearly how suffering arises in this world and how suffering ceases. As long as there's ignorance in the mind, as long as we have ignorance in the mind, we are going to create thoughts in our mind. Good thoughts and bad thoughts create thoughts in the mind. As long as you are ignorant, as long as you are not able to solve the problem that you are confronted with, you start to worry and think and think and think and think. Right? Your child has gone back, has not come back, 1, 2 o'clock already in the morning, you worry. You have all kinds of theories in your mind, suspicion and fear in your mind. Then 2 o'clock in the morning she walks in no more thoughts in the mind. And then after that, finish thoughts. Before you go to sleep, you start to think what to tell her tomorrow morning. This is the thought. This is what you call that mind. Sankhara. Avidya. Where there is ignorance, there are a lot of thoughts in the mind. These sankhara conditions of consciousness are eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and mind consciousness. And where there is this consciousness, there arises mind and body. Where there is mind and body, there is eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and the mind, the 6 bases. Where there is a 6 bases, the contact arises with the external world. Where there is contact, there is feeling. Where there is feeling, there is craving. Good feeling gives you attachment, craving, more craving. If no good feeling, then you have aversion. Attachment conditions becoming. That becoming process leads on to birth. Birth of what? Every moment, remember, the law of Paticcasamuppada operates here and now, in the present moment. Every moment there is birth and death taking place within you. Not why? Birth and death of what? Your thoughts. How do you see the world? How do you perceive the world? Through your thoughts, ideas. And in the thoughts are created the 5 aggregates, the aggregate of form, the body, the aggregate of feeling, aggregate of perception, aggregate of mental formation, and aggregate of consciousness. These 5 aggregates arise through every thought, through your eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Whatever you see, the thought arises. Consciousness arises and a thought is produced. And that thought creates the impression of the 5 aggregates. As long as there is ignorance, as long as there is delusion, one is not able to see these thoughts, the 5 aggregates which has appeared and disappeared. In the delusion of the mind, this mind clings on to these 5 aggregates which appears in the thought and clings on to them, and thereby bringing about thinking and rethinking about it. I'll give you an example. Some experiences that you have had in the past, you can bring up, you can think about it. As you recall the past and think, some of you can visualize it very clearly. Something happened in the past, right? Some can let go, some cannot let go. Some, as soon as you think of something happened in the past, if it is an unpleasant one, then you cannot. You just go on playing again and again, again and again. They are the thoughts which you cannot control. And that is how anger arises, hatred arises in you. As you think of some bad experiences that you have. If you think of some good experiences, pleasant experiences, and you recall to them again and again these thoughts arises, desire arises in you, craving, attachment arises in you. You see. Think of all the good things that your loved ones have done for you, and now they are no more. You feel very sorrowful. You see, you feel very sad. Because of what? Attachment. So, it is these thoughts that the Buddha points out how the path, the way to overcome suffering. It is this knowledge that shows very clearly this is the path, this is the deep aim of suffering. old age, sickness and death. Then the Buddha, after that, after realizing these truths on the night of the full moon day of the month of May, of Vesak, the month of Vesak, then the Buddha, after that, Buddha went to preach. To make the teaching simple, Buddha taught basically all the teachings of the Buddha rest on this teaching that as long as there is life, as long as there is existence in one form or another, there is old age, sickness, death, there is suffering, there is unsatisfactoriness. But there is an end to it. There is a cause to it, there is an end to it, there is a path, a way leading to the end of all suffering. These are what you call the Four Noble Truths. These Four Noble Truths are the core, the basic teachings of the Buddha. If you contemplate on it, probe into it, investigate and find out what. That is the way how you can overcome any problem, any suffering, any time. To train yourself. What is the cause of suffering? Those of you who study management courses, problem solving, you have to identify the problem, see the cause of it, then you find the prescription, the end, and how to overcome it. These are the Four Noble Truths. The way to overcome suffering. How to overcome suffering? We must overcome the cause of suffering. What is the cause of suffering? Craving, desire is the cause of all our suffering. What is this desire? What is this craving? It's a craving. It is a habit pattern of our mind. It's a habitual tendency of the mind. When you see something good, you want to see it again and again. When you smell something nice, you want to smell again and again. When you taste something good, you want it again and again. When you feel and touch something you want good, you want it again and again. And when you think of something good, you want to think and think and think and imagine again and again. Now, this is how craving arises. If it is true, then you want to overcome suffering. The practice must be to reduce and eliminate this craving. How to reduce and eliminate this craving? We have to understand what is the factor that promotes craving and anger. It is our thoughts, our inability to control our thoughts, thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking, rethinking again. So there is a system, there is a way, there is a path whereby we can control, we can reduce these habitual tendencies, the uncontrolled, random thinking, by way of leading a good, having good conduct, moral life, that free our mind from remorse, guilty conscience, developing concentration. And then with this concentration, we focus our mind, we analyze this being of ours, see it as mind and body, and see how all our activities are conditioned by cause, the law of cause and effect, and see everything. When you can see cause and effect, you see everything rising and falling, rising and falling. Everything is changing, changing, changing. There is no substance to cling on to, and that is how you would be able to keep your mind silent. When you see the impermanent nature of this being, the thoughts that arises, rise and fall, there is nothing that you can cling on to. Analyze these thoughts as the five aggregates which are subject to change, rising and falling. Your thoughts become less and less, less and less. You would have You can think, but your mind will become more and more peaceful because you have no more random thoughts, no more uncontrolled thoughts as such. That is how you reduce your craving, reduce your anger. This is the path the Buddha taught. When you have overcome all craving, all attachment, then this will be your last life. Even though you did not utter those words that this is your last life. Yes? But you will come to know. When you reach that state, you will come to know that this is my last life. And the joy, the bliss will be a great one. A relief for you to think what you say. So the enlightenment of the Buddha stood for this. As a being, as one who shone, as a beacon, as light, giving light to the whole world, showing the path how to overcome suffering once and for all. There are beings who have tread during his time, there are beings after his time, even now. Following the teachings of the Buddha, it is possible to overcome all suffering. And in the future too, as long as there are beings to practice this Dhamma, this real Dhamma, this is the path to overcome all sufferings. So that is the meaning of enlightenment. The enlightenment of the Buddha, the knowledge showing the path how to overcome suffering, the Four Noble Truths. Then the Buddha preached for 45 years until he was 80 years old. And